Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. My name's Doug. I'm the IT Project Delivery Manager at Grant McGregor, and I'm joined on this call by Nick from our Microsoft licensing partner. For those of you who are not familiar with us, Grant McGregor are an Edinburgh-based IT MSP, and we provide IT services to businesses across Scotland, ranging from ongoing support and maintenance to consultancy, project work, procurement of hardware and licensing. Today's webinar is about Microsoft 365 Copilot. We'll start by running through a few short slides to go over what Microsoft Copilot is and how you can prepare for it. And then after that, we'll jump into a live demo so you can see the power of the tool in action. There's a Q&A on this webinar at the top. There's a little Q&A box, so feel free to ask questions as we go through. We'll do our best to answer all of them during the Q&A portion at the end. But if we run out of time, then what we'll do is follow up with answers to all of those questions in an email. The presentation is recorded. You can use the same link anytime in the future just to watch the presentation back. So if you think it's useful for someone and want to forward it to them, feel free to just send the same link on to them. And I'll hand over now to Nick, who's going to do the first part of the presentation.
Thank you, Doug. So we're in a pretty unique time in the world, I would say, especially when it comes to business, and a lot of that is down to the digitization of businesses. So entire industries currently are changing and the economies are shifting, and we're at this sort of technological crossroads, and it may seem as if we're entering this new era and the AI is all new, but actually as a concept, AI has been around since the 1950s. And that was when Alan Turing invented the Turing test. And so whether we're aware of it today or not, we actually use AI daily. So if you're an avid Netflix user or a Spotify user, then they use AI to recommend TV shows or songs and playlists based on your viewing history, and also tailored content as well, specifically to individual users. So it's different for every single person. And then Amazon uses AI to promote and push content to your homepage based on what it thinks that you might like to purchase. I get that a lot. Things like Alexa as well, Google Assistant, Siri, these are all personal assistants that utilize AI. And even the good old-fashioned predictive text is a form of AI deep learning. So in summary, AI isn't actually new. This new generative AI and ChatGPT is quite a new thing since 2021. But let's take a quick look at AI's impact. So I love this graph. So it took 16 years for the mobile phone to reach 100 million users, and it took Facebook just over 4 years. ChatGPT had 100 million users in 3 months. In fact, it was almost 2 months. And today, ChatGPT as a product has around 200 million users. So the growth and interest in AI as a technology is absolutely huge. And in some studies that I was looking at the other day on the impact of AI, it was predicted that global GDP could increase by almost 26% by the turn of this decade. So, and that is purely as a result of AI and the uptake of AI. Also, in another report I was looking at the other day, it's predicted that 70% of companies are likely to have adopted at least one form of AI. Some companies already use AI and some use multiple forms of AI. So that's a large stat, and that's again by the turn of 2030. On to the next slide. So another little bit about the AI impact. So again, BT said that they were looking, and they just announced that they're going to cut between 40 to 50,000 jobs by the end of this decade as it moves towards more automated services. And these sort of headlines do not help the fear that AI potentially could replace us and take our jobs. And some 70% of people would delegate as much work as they could to possibly to lessen their own workload. So even though AI we're fearful of it, we also know that it can help and it can support us every day. Again, hybrid is a great thing, and working from home and working remotely is great, but it also comes with its challenges. And in a recent study by the Modern Work Trend Index report, it stated that AI can help lift that burden of the mundane, repetitive task and help fuel a bit of innovation. And that innovation will create more growth, and that will also create more jobs. So it's not all doom and gloom. And according to some experts, this is a brilliant stat. They reckon that 85% of jobs that will exist in the next 7 to 10 years have not even been invented yet. So there's a massive trajectory of new growth and new jobs that are to come. One of the things I know is we're all spending far too much time searching for information, being in meetings that are quite inefficient. So the amount of data, emails, chats that we get daily is expanded so much that we're kind of struggling to process all this information. And nearly 2 in 3 people say they don't have enough time or energy just to do their day job. And some of those employees as well, they're 3.5 times more likely to struggle with that bit of innovation and strategic thinking because we're being bogged down. So there is something that can help, so fear not, and that is Copilot for Microsoft 365. I wanted to share this slide with all of you as well because there are lots of Copilots that Microsoft have announced, and it can get quite confusing. So the one we're talking about today is Microsoft 365 Copilot. That is all around our Microsoft 365 apps, so Office, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, Excel, those apps. But there is a Copilot in Bing, which you may be familiar with, which is a little bit like ChatGPT. There is a GitHub Copilot for code generation. There are security Copilots, and there's many more, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come as well. But the key message here really is you might see Copilot and the logo in a lot of places. You probably see it on your laptop today because there's one for Windows as well. But again, the one we are focusing on today is Copilot for Microsoft 365. So before Doug gets into some of his lovely demos, I've got a very short, funky video for you. So hopefully this comes through.
Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Still, that's the motto, yeah. Brand new bands for the auto, oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet, like a Seinfeld plot. Ball full of songs, all of them bombs, something like a minefield guy. Boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's it? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Flows the same now. Paved the way to snakes and fakes and chased out. Back to back. I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
Brilliant stuff. So Copilot for Microsoft 365 combines the power of a thing called large language models, which you may have heard of. But it combines those large language models with your data and the Microsoft 365 apps. So LLMs, as they are known, are used for text generation and natural language. So they use a large data source to train the model itself. So this is already in play. That's why you have these things called ChatGPT 3, 3.5 and 4 and so on. The Microsoft Graph, so that is, in effect, that's your data. That's the stuff that sits within your tenant. And then we have the Microsoft apps, which we should all know what they are. So Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. So it works alongside you. So it's called Copilot, not Autopilot. So again, another key message is it won't do everything for you. It won't replace you. You guide it, you prompt it to get to the kind of goal or the document or the creation that you desire. And again, it's embedded in all of these apps. So the great thing is it's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to security, compliance, privacy, and also responsible AI, which is a new one. So it inherits your organization's existing Microsoft 365 security, compliance, and privacy policies. So your data is protected, it's isolated, and it's kept within your tenant, and it's also completely within your control. So your data isn't used to train the model itself. It's all protected. That's the unique thing here that Microsoft want to get across. And by design, it respects a specific user's permissions to content and also the information that it retrieves. So it only generates responses based on the information that users have permissions to access. So an example of that would be a sales rep they wouldn't be able to access HR documents like pay grade and disciplinary information as long as you have those policies in place already. And in fact, sometimes this information may be stored in a separate system which isn't linked anyway, so it won't be able to reference that. So Business Premium specifically, so Microsoft 365 Business Premium, it includes a lot of these important capabilities anyway, such as sensitivity labels and also retention labels to help you apply and restrict permissions within your Microsoft 365 tenant and documents. So we're going to go into a bit more detail after the demos on that, but by having a little bit of basic data governance in place, it means that Copilot is only going to give you the right information and the most relevant information, and it's going to stop things like content oversharing and also accidental data leakage. I'm now going to hand over to Doug. So Doug, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. I'm going to run through a live demo of some of the Copilot functionality now, so I will just share my screen. One moment. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my desktop there. So I'll run through Copilot in some of the most common scenarios, using it in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., and then some advanced functionality as well. So what you'll see if I load up an Office application, if you're licensed for using Copilot, the first thing that will pop up on a new document is this Draft with Copilot box. You'll also see in the top right up here, there'll be a Copilot icon associated with all the Office applications. So you can ask Copilot to do a variety of different things. As an example, what I'm going to get it to do is get it to write me a customer-facing article about the growing trends in architecture at the moment. So what that'll do is use my prompt, go to the Microsoft backend, use the large language model as Nick talked about to understand the words and the meaning of what I'm asking it to do, and then it'll use all available information that it has to generate an article. That might come from your internal business information, or it may come from articles that it's read about on the internet. So as you can see very quickly there, it's generated me an article. I can use that as maybe a newsletter for my customers or a blog, or post it to my website. And of course I can edit it in the normal way you would do with a Word document as well. If you like the article, you can just keep it. But if you want to make changes to it, you can ask it further things. You can make it more formal, make it more casual, add some pictures, add some different text, all these sorts of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that article. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm just going to save that article to my OneNote. So that document's saved now, and that might be an okay article for sending out with a newsletter or something like that. But let's say I want to turn that into a customer-facing presentation. So I'm going to open up PowerPoint, and then I've got the Copilot icon again in the top right here. And I'm going to ask it to make me a presentation. You can prompt it to search for documents with the / and it will bring up recent documents that you've looked at. You can, of course, link documents in here as well. So if you got the sharing link from your OneNote, you can just paste the sharing link in here. So I'm going to use this document that I just saved, and I'm going to ask it to make me a presentation. So this will take a few seconds, probably 15-20 seconds or so. It's just going to scan through the content of the document, and then it's going to generate me a whole list of slides, which I can then use. So it's first going to say, here's the outline for the presentation. It's going to give me the summaries for each of the slides. You can see there it's just generating the slides. and it's generated me a fairly short PowerPoint presentation with a couple of pictures and some notes. You can ask it to make that more interesting. So, for example, I can say, can you add more structure to the presentation? And that will divide the presentation up into sections, maybe add some more pictures and things in. All of these prompts are things that you can try out and just discuss with the AI, find out what it's capable of doing. Just give it a second while it's working on that. Just while it's working away on that one, I'll bring up a presentation that I had it generate me previously. So this was the same presentation using the same document. And as you can see, it's generated me a completely different presentation. So every time you ask it to do something, it's not just going to do the same thing. It's going to look at the information that you've provided it, and it's going to generate you something unique. All of the images are generated by the AI itself, so they're not stolen from elsewhere. They're images which the AI thinks fits your requirement. Looks like that didn't work. As I say, it is an AI, so some of the prompts will give you the results that you're looking for. Some of them may not work. So you can play around with the functionality, ask it various different things, experiment with what's possible and what's not possible. I'll just move on to Excel. So this one might be more relevant for people who are working in finance rather than sales or marketing. I'm just going to open up an Excel document which is full of fake financial information. So this is not real information. It's just been pulled from a Microsoft website. So there's a whole bunch of information in this document here, as you can see. And what I can do is highlight all of this information and use the Copilot button in the top right here. And if I can't think of what to ask the AI to do, it does give me some example prompts here as well. So I could ask it to show me an insight on this data, and it will examine the data, and it's going to give me one insight which it thinks might be relevant to me. So we can see there it's given me a little graph based on some of the information in here, as well as what that graph relates to. I can also use it to generate all insights that it thinks is relevant to this Excel sheet. So if I do add all insights to a grid, and this will really save you time when it comes to creating things like pivot tables or figuring out formulas to do things. The AI will just do it for you. So here's a bunch of graphs that it's created which are relevant to the information which is in that document. You can also see the pivot tables that it's created down the bottom here that are associated with that. So it's really quick, really powerful, save a whole bunch of time. If you're regularly working with large spreadsheets, lots of formulas and lots of information, that's going to save you a lot of time there. Next thing I'll move on to is Copilot in Outlook. So I'm just going to bring up a new email in my Outlook. There we go. And you can see this draft with Copilot button here. So if I click on that, now what Copilot can do in Outlook is summarize and rewrite emails for you. So we all get lots of emails. It takes a long time to read through them all, respond to them all, and sometimes the responses can be a bit short or sharp, and maybe could be written a bit more professionally or formally. So I'm just going to write a really quick email. Hi, Bob. I will get back to you soon. I'm a bit busy at the moment. So that's not a particularly professional email. You know, if you were sending that to a customer, they might read that and think, well, he's been a bit short with me there. So you have a whole bunch of tones that you can apply to it. You know, casual, formal. You can make it short or long. So I'm going to make it formal and medium length. I'm going to generate that. And you can see there, it's a much more professional email. So it's rewritten it to say, hope this email finds you well, acknowledging your message, a little bit busy at the moment, appreciate your patience and understanding, value our relationship. Thanks for your cooperation and support, sincerely Doug. So that's a much more professional email that you could send to a customer or to another business. If you don't like it, again, you can talk to it, you can make changes, you can say make it longer, shorter, remove this word, etc. Copilot in Outlook can also summarize emails for you. So if you have an email, you can just get it to summarize it. So if you have a very long email trail, you know, maybe there's 50 different emails in the email trail, you can just get it to summarize that email into a few bullet points. The next thing I'm going to show is Copilot in Teams. So I've just popped this out from my Teams on the left, which I'm not going to bring onto my main screen because it's got all my private chats and things in it. But this is available as a button inside of Teams. And this works very similarly to the way ChatGPT works. So you can talk to it, you can have a conversation with it, you can even argue with it if you think it's wrong, or you can just simply ask it questions. So if I ask it a question such as, how many people live in Edinburgh? So it will look at internal information, and if you allow it to, it will look at web information. So you can see it thinks the population of Edinburgh is 558,000 people. And what it will do is it'll put this little number 1 here, which is the reference it's used for where it's gained that information. So it's used a website called World Population Review. So AI is, you know, it's only as accurate as the information that it's been trained on or it can gather. So it is important that you check where that information's come from before taking it as absolute fact. It is still all of our responsibility to make sure that the information that we're putting out publicly or providing to other people is accurate. So you can ask it all sorts of questions. So if I ask it something like, what is the current financial market doing? We've got some financial information there. You can see there's a whole bunch of these little numbers everywhere, which you can see which websites it's used to gather this information from. So it's useful for really quick information like that. You can also get it to give you very complex information. So for example, explain quantum mechanics. If I can spell quantum correctly. I've spelled mechanics wrong, but it doesn't care. It knows what I'm talking about, what it means. So it'll give you an explanation there of what it thinks it's about. You can also ask it, give me much more technical detail.
That's like a really key point, Doug, as well, isn't it? You know, for people that are maybe dyslexic or struggle with their spelling, it will help you, especially when you're writing emails and documents as well. It will kind of step in and fix it for you, which is helpful.
Yeah, you don't have to be overly specific. Spelling mistakes are fine. So it's going to give me a lot more technical detail there on the subject I've asked it about, which working in IT means nothing at all to me. So I could ask it to explain this as if I am 5 years old. And it's going to give me a really dumbed down version, which would be suitable for kids. So you can see, imagine if you had a toy car that could be in two places at the same time and go through walls, and the car doesn't even touch each other, and it'll rewrite it into a however you like. You can have fun with it and get it to impersonate Elvis if you really want to do things like that as well. Something that might be useful for those who are a bit more technical, maybe you're involved in web creation or code or something like that, you can ask it to generate code for you. So if you're familiar with things like HTML or Python or PowerShell or something like that, as an example, give me the HTML code for a basic web page. Let's say I knew nothing about HTML and I wanted to create my first website. It's going to give me the code which will allow me to then create that. So there's some basic code for a website, and you can expand on that. So I could say to it, add in a picture, add in a second page, change the font, change the color, all these sorts of things. So you can basically get it to code for you, and you just become the interface with the computer rather than having to know the code yourself. There is one more chat functionality that's available. So if I just bring across my browser 1 second. So this is a very similar interface. So this is Copilot available through Bing, which is it directly interfaces with the internet. The only real difference between this and the Copilot that you just saw in Teams there is that this can do image generation as well. So what I'm going to ask it is to create me an image of a house with a long driveway and a man standing in front of it, waving. So this will use its image generation capabilities to create that picture for me. So it's not going to do what Google does, where it goes to an image search and then searches the internet for images of a house. It's going to use its knowledge of what a house and a driveway and a man is, and it's going to create those images for me. So there we go. We got a house with a long driveway with a man waving. Maybe I wanted to use those in some marketing or make them more modern or something like that. I can say make the image more modern and colorful. And it's going to regenerate those images to something which it thinks fits my description. You can go back and forward with it as much as you like, so you can really fine tune it. I'm using some quite straightforward prompts here, but you can be very specific with the prompts. So you can write lines and lines of prompt to get exactly what it is that you're looking for. And that goes for all of the applications that Copilot integrates with. The shorter the prompt, the more sort of generic it's going to be. The more specific you are with the prompt, it's going to give you exactly what you're looking for. So there's a more modern man in front of a house waving. So I'll bring across Teams in a second. What I want to show you next is how Copilot interacts with a Teams meeting. Now we're in a Teams meeting at the moment, so I can't show you live. So I'm going to bring across just a couple of videos, and I'll play those. They're very short, just a few seconds.
Copilot in Teams makes every meeting a productive one. Here, you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize what's happened so far. Copilot summarizes who said what and what points were made, capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It is just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
So that's real-time meeting information that you've got there. As I mentioned, you can ask it questions during the meeting to say, what was I missed? You know, we're all in a lot of meetings, we get distracted. Maybe someone said something that we missed, and you just want to quick click without interrupting the meeting, and it will give you a quick response on what you've missed there. After the meeting, you can do a recap of the whole meeting. So I'll just bring across another quick video here, which will explain that.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarized notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver.
So as you can see, that's a very powerful tool that Copilot allows you to use during meetings. One example of this, which I'm sure the guys in my team will love me sharing, is that while I'm in one-to-ones with my team, historically I would have had to take notes during those meetings, which is distracting. Maybe I'm writing notes when the person is saying something. Copilot now takes those notes for me, allowing me to focus on the person that's talking, and then after the meeting I can just take those notes and maybe paste them into our HR software or wherever it is that you record one-to-one meeting notes. So there's a whole bunch of applications, but that's just one time-saving thing that I've done with it. The last thing that I'm going to bring up is Copilot in the Power Platform. So on the Office website here, some people may be familiar with that. You've got Power Applications, Power BI, Power Automate, etc. So if I go across into Power Automate, Power Automate is an automation tool which is also designed to save businesses time. Maybe you have a mundane process. You have someone who's employed basically just for moving data from one place to another or copying data around. Automate is designed to automate those tasks, but historically creating the flows in Automate has been complex. You've had to have a little bit of knowledge about Power Automate. Copilot makes that much easier for you. So there's this box at the top of Power Automate now, and in here you can describe the automation that you want to create. So as an example, when a new email arrives, send a push notification, a text notification to me and my manager. The email is marked as important. And what it will do is create the various parts of the flow for you. The trigger is when an email arrives, and the flow action is it's going to get my 365 account, it's going to get my manager's 365 account, and the condition is it's going to send us a mobile push notification. So it will require a few permissions in here, which I already have set up, and then basically you create the flow, and that's it, job done. As another quick example, something else you could do. Every day, copy a file from one SharePoint site to another. So the recurrence will be every day. It's going to get one SharePoint site and it's going to create a file in another SharePoint site. So that may save somebody a whole bunch of time. Maybe every day you've got a report and you need to email it to someone, copy it to somewhere else. That's no longer a manual task. You can just get Automate to do that, and you can get Copilot to create that in Automate for you. So that was all of the applications and the quick demos that I was going to run through for you there. Hopefully you found that useful. I'm just going to hand back to Nick now. He's got a couple more slides on licensing and security, and then we can jump on to the Q&A section.
Thanks, Doug. So I have to come off mute then. Awesome. So good demos, Doug. One thing I will say about prompting is quite a key thing with this. So make sure you're really specific, give it structure, tell it what you want, and also tell it what to avoid as well. So another real key thing is provide context. So I was in some training yesterday, and a really good example I heard was, say you want Copilot to give you a specific response. Say, tell Copilot that it is a college professor, and to give you an example, and be really specific for who that example, give really specific what that would be for. So rather than just say for a teenager, teenagers can range from the age of 13 up to the age of 19. So be specific and say for someone who is 13 years old. So yeah, one thing I would say is when you start using it, just be really specific with what you want it to ask, and what you want it to respond with. But one of the kind of predominant narratives around AI is that those people are fearful that this is going to take jobs. You can automate things, you can get information much quicker. Will it mean that people that sit at a desk responding to queries become redundant? These are all things that probably go through a lot of our heads. But even though that there is that fear, a lot of people actually would like AI because they're too busy. They've got lots to do, and actually they need help themselves. And actually 70% of people would still choose to delegate as much work as possible to lessen that workload. And a common term I hear around AI is, AI won't necessarily take your job, but someone who can utilize AI and prompt AI potentially could. And then here's some kind of headline stats from the early adopters. So 87% of the people that were surveyed found themselves being more productive, and 1 in 3 found that they saved 30 minutes a day. I mean, I don't know, I could do a lot with 30 minutes extra a day. And then lastly, 96% of these users that were kind of in this summary would be disappointed if they no longer had access to the tool itself. So it's definitely been very, very positive in the early findings. So we're going to take a little look at how to get ready for Copilot. So there are 4 things that we're going to kind of deep dive into, which we'll do on the next slide. So some questions that I would look at. So organizational profile. So are you already using AI in your business? Is there some really good use cases for it? This could really help with building that strong business case for adopting it. So, do you have that experience already with AI? Can you already prompt? Is there people in the business that would really benefit from this? And other questions around where your data is stored. So are you already utilizing some of the Microsoft products? And then user readiness. So one of the most common questions is, can I get Copilot today? So if you're an SMB size customer and you're using Microsoft 365 Business Standard or Business Premium, then yes, you are eligible. They're prerequisite SKUs. But also if you're an enterprise or you have some of the enterprise SKUs, such as Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 or Office E3 or E5, they're also eligible SKUs as well. There was also, which you may have heard, there was a 300 user minimum that you had to have, and it was only aimed at those enterprise customers. So that's all been removed now, so you can buy as little as 1 license. Although to really see the benefit, you probably need to buy a few more than that. And Microsoft recommends that you do it by department to really see the benefit and the collaboration. So yes, that's what Microsoft would recommend. But is there that person as well in the business that's really not very good on Excel or PowerPoint, and that would benefit from that little helping hand in that Copilot? Are you that person that constantly gets bothered because you are the expert? Well, you don't need to be the expert any longer. You can use Copilot for that. So collaboration wise, so how do you currently communicate within your organization? Do you already use Teams? That's quite a critical one, because some of the stuff you can do is pretty exceptional. So how are you creating next steps? Are you recording meetings? Are you already using OneDrive already? Are you already using SharePoint? All these sorts of things, and do they integrate? Obviously, yes, they do if they're Microsoft products. But saving the best till last. So data security and governance. So we don't want to scare you with this, because in fact, a lot of all Copilot could do is bring information that's already readily available to your users. But actually, look at your data governance. As we've already mentioned, it already uses your existing permissions and policies to give you that most relevant information. So do not fear. Microsoft, the key message is it's crucial that you have these policies in place, but when you do, you are protected, your data is protected. It's not being used to train the model. It's really important that we all have good content management anyway for GDPR. But as we all know, we're very busy and some of these things do get overlooked. But again, there are lots of tools in place that can help you get there. For most businesses, though, content oversharing and data governance is a massive challenge. So that's a big part of it and a big part of the implementation process. So access permissions definitely need to be considered prior to an installation, although you could just theoretically turn the license on if you were ready, which would be obviously brilliant news. So yeah, it's a very, very simple to use tool. When you get it right, it can make a massive difference as well to your day-to-day. It can save you, some of those stats have suggested, even 30 minutes a day, which for me is a massive positive. But if you want to know kind of more information on kind of getting ready for it, labels, access permissions, then definitely speak to the team at Grant McGregor. So I'm going to summarize what we've just kind of talked about. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is Microsoft's AI-powered assistant. So it's an assistant. It's not there to replace you. It works across your Microsoft 365 apps, which you know and love, and we use daily. It can help from a range of tasks like Doug showed. So writing emails, creating reports, analyzing Excel data, creating PowerPoints. From what we've seen already, there's a huge amount of engagement, and it's a lot of interest in the product itself. But before we start kind of thinking about buying a license, it's just worth bearing in mind that there is a little bit of preparation to be done prior to installation. But Copilot will inherit those security and privacy policies that you've already got in place, which is great. So you don't have to worry about your information being in the wrong hands. I'm now going to hand back over to the lovely Doug so we can go through any next steps and also any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Nick. Hopefully that was useful for everybody. So the next steps on Copilot, if anybody is interested in adopting this or learning more about it, you can reach out to Grant McGregor in the usual ways, so via our phone or email. My email address is on the screen there, so feel free to email me directly with any questions. If you want to get a quote for any licensing or anything like that, then let me know. What we'd recommend before proceeding is that we just do a quick Copilot readiness assessment for your organization. That it doesn't take very long. It's something that we can do in the back end, a couple of hours of time just to check through your 365, your security policies, and make sure they're in a good state. As Nick mentioned, it is important to highlight that Copilot will use what you have in place at the moment. So if you have good SharePoint permissions, if you're using Intune to secure your devices, if you're using maybe data loss prevention or information security to ensure that there's no data leakage, Copilot will use all of that. If you have no security on your data whatsoever, all the folders are open to everybody, Copilot will have visibility of everything. So Copilot here is not going to be the cause of an issue. The cause of an issue would be how the data is structured in the first place. Copilot is just a window into that data, and if it is accessible to people incorrectly already, it will continue to be accessible incorrectly. So just making sure your data is in a good position, which of course we can help you with, and assess your data and all your security in 365 would be a great next step. So there are a few questions that are popping up in the chat here, so I'll just cover a few of those. So I've answered a few of these in the chat already, but just in case anyone can't see them, can Copilot generate images? Yes, it can, as we've seen there on the Bing image generation. Can Copilot link with data from Power BI? Yes, it can. It has an add-in in Power BI which you can use. Can you automate the copy of a file in one location to a third-party application? yes, you can empower automate. It does depend on the application and whether there's a connector available for it, but yes is the answer. Couple more questions here, which I'll just publish. What are the related business risks that come with Copilot? So as we've mentioned there, the risks associated with Copilot are no different to the risks associated with your data, how it is at the moment. If your data is unsecure, then you already have risks with your data. Copilot is not the cause of problems here. It is just a tool that you can use to view your data. So if your permissions on your your SharePoint libraries are not secure and you've got people who can access HR documents already, then they can already do that. And Copilot is not is not creating a hole. There is already a hole there. So we would always recommend that you ensure that the security of your data is correct first before adopting new technologies. Somebody's asked, does Copilot come as standalone installation, or does it appear within your Office package when the license is assigned? So there is no installation of Copilot. As soon as you purchase a license and apply that to a user, after a period of sort of 24 hours logging in and out of your PC, that Copilot button will appear in the top right of all of the applications.
We haven't really mentioned the semantic index, have we, Doug, on this call? But it does take a period of time for Copilot to sort of rationalize where your data sits and who is in what position within the organization. So when you ask it a question like, or you want to reference some data which comes from a specific person, it will take a little bit of time in the background to get that information, so that it gives you answers quickly and most accurately. So yeah, that's always bearing in mind.
Yeah, so it'll be available straight away. It takes a little bit of learning time in the back end to sort of analyze all of the data that's available to it. But yeah, there's no requirement to install anything on the PCs. It's just another 365 license which we apply on a per user basis, and then that user will be enabled for Copilot. Somebody has asked if we're in a Teams meeting in one room with others on a call with external staff too, can Copilot identify that there are different people in the room talking? I believe that would require the room to be licensed with a Teams room license, which does have the ability to pick up multiple participants in the same room.
And a Teams room certified device as well. I think that feature is called intelligent meetings with intelligent speakers, I think. But you need to, it won't be able to work out necessarily random external users, I don't think. We'll have to check on that one, Doug, unless you know the answer to that one. But it will know if you've signed in, it will know who you are and the people that have signed in.
Yeah. If you're signed in from different devices, it will of course know who's talking based on who's logged in. If you're all sat in the same room, then the room and the device would need to be Teams room compatible, and then it would be able to identify the different speakers in that room, and then Copilot just leverages that Teams licensing there. Somebody has asked what are the licensing costs. So the licensing model for Copilot is it's a per user license, and it is an annual renewal at the moment. So you buy the license for one person, you apply it to that person, and they will have it for the next year up until that renewal point. There isn't currently a monthly licensing model. There is also only one licensing model, so there isn't currently any education or non-profit cost. It's the same cost for everybody. That may change in the future as Microsoft changes their pricing model and this becomes more widely adopted. As for the price, what I would ask is that if people are interested, that you just reach out to myself or the team at Grant McGregor for a quote on that, and we can provide it. There are a number of different types of organizations on this call, some supported organizations and some external parties. So discussing pricing openly at the moment is not particularly appropriate. So if you just want to drop me a quick email and I'll be able to let you know the pricing on that. Somebody has said, will Copilot continue to learn our data over time? So I want to give a distinction here. Copilot doesn't use your business data to teach the wider Copilot. So your business data is safe inside your 365 tenancy. The Copilot in your tenancy uses your data to, discover links between the data. As you add more documents, it will know about those documents, but it doesn't use the information in those documents to then teach the Copilot backend at Microsoft. They have a whole team of data scientists who are teaching the Copilot model using publicly accessible information. Somebody has said, what's the difference between the consumer version of Copilot and the business iteration? The consumer version, it is not, it doesn't integrate with Office 365. So the business version that we're discussing here has all of the integrations that you've seen before. The sort of home free Copilot version, which is available, is similar to ChatGPT in that it's basically just a chat program that you can ask questions for. It doesn't have the ability to log into it using your Microsoft Business account, and it can't interface with your business data. Somebody has asked about free trials. There aren't any free trials available at the moment. That's not through Microsoft not wanting to make them available. It's actually the application is so popular that Microsoft are having to increase the size of their data centers and the back-end technology that's available for it. So many people have adopted this already that also offering free trials, it would overwhelm their data centers at the moment. So I imagine in the future, as they provision more hardware into their data centers, that free trials will become available, but not at present. Can it compare information with one document and another? Yes, you could have Word, have a prompt in Word and say, please reference this other document and give me the differences between the document I'm currently working on and the document which I've linked in. So when you're giving it prompts, you can link other documents in those prompts, and it will use the information in those documents to answer your question. Are licenses transferable in the event of a staff change? Yes, they work the same as any other 365 license. They're assigned to a user, but if that user account doesn't exist anymore, then the license is just sat there available for you to assign that license to somebody else.
So I was going to say the data will also be forgotten on that individual, so it will start again fresh with the new individual.
Somebody's asked, can the content generated by Copilot be sold on? So the information generated by Copilot, it is generated using publicly available information. And what I would recommend is that anything you get it to generate, you review yourself and maybe add or change things. Sorry if you can hear my doorbell in the background there. That you read it and change it so it's appropriate to your business. There are tools out there that can check AI's work for plagiarism. So there are websites where you can do a plagiarism check, and that's teachers use them for exams and things like that. So if a kid at home uses Copilot or ChatGPT to generate the answers to an exam, quite often these days the teacher will just paste that exam into a plagiarism checker, and there are key markers that something has been generated by AI. So it's a good idea to use what Copilot is giving you and tweak it a bit to fit your needs, rather than just copy and pasting, because you can tell when something has been written by AI. I think that's all the questions that we have on there, unless anybody has any other ones. One question which nobody has asked, which I'll just I'd written down myself in case anyone wanted to know, data which is kept, which is used by Copilot, where does it live? So Copilot respects the existing boundaries of your 365. So if your data lives in the UK, then Copilot will maintain that. So country boundaries, regional boundaries that are appropriate for things like GDPR, it doesn't break those boundaries, so it won't send data to be processed in the US. It will keep it inside your region. Are there any implications of using Copilot if our organization has or is working towards Cyber Essentials? Well, Cyber Essentials covers security of your devices, of your people, of your software. As I mentioned, Copilot is really just a window into your data. So the things you should be addressing for Cyber Essentials are around, are the applications you're using up to date? Do you have password policies? Are your devices secured, and are they modern? Are you using software which is supported, and all these sorts of things? The use of Copilot, it doesn't really play into Cyber Essentials. Now, if you're using Copilot in an unsecure way, or you have
ChatGPT.
I was going to mention that. If your data is not structured well in the first place, that plays more into Cyber Essentials than the use of Copilot. Nick mentioned ChatGPT there. An important distinction between Copilot and ChatGPT is that everything that's in Copilot will continue to live inside of your tenancy in your.
I don't know if anyone saw it, but it had that protected flash up, didn't it, with the icon like a badge, which basically tells you that your information is protected and that it's secure. Whereas if you're using ChatGPT on the web, that is being used to potentially train the model, or at least be used to train the new model when it eventually comes.
Yeah, so that's an important difference. If you're thinking, well, I'll just paste this into ChatGPT and ChatGPT is free, then what you're pasting into ChatGPT, if that's business data, ChatGPT uses that information to train its back-end model. So then that business information is effectively public, and that can have implications on GDPR, personal data breaches, all these sorts of things. Copilot keeps your data inside 365, respects the security that's in place at the moment, so it doesn't have those same sorts of problems. But no, it doesn't directly impact Cyber Essentials. What we would probably recommend is that you, as a business, come up with an AI policy, which we have templates available for. So if an AI policy is something that you feel your business would benefit from before adopting Copilot, we can provide you a template for that, and a little bit of consultancy work to help fill that template in. And then make sure your staff have read that and agreed to the sensible use of AI. So I think we're nearly done, unless anybody else has got any questions they want to pop in the chat there. Just give it a couple of seconds in case anything pops up. No, okay. Well, thanks everybody for attending.